You wake up tomorrow and every grain of salt has disappeared. There is no salt shaker in your kitchen. No sodium hidden inside bread, cheese, sauces, or packaged food. Grocery stores have none. Restaurants have none. Even the salt added during food production is gone. At first, your meals simply taste bland. But after days of walking, working, and sweating, something else begins to happen. Your body is losing sodium, but there's no obvious way to replace it. Your muscles still need it to contract. Your nerves still need it to send signals. And your body cannot produce sodium on its own. Now imagine facing that problem 20,000 years ago. There were no grocery stores, electrolyte drinks, or packets of salt. Many ancient humans lived far from oceans and may never have seen a salt mine. So what would you do? Would you search for salty rocks? Follow animals to mineral deposits? Or discover that the sodium you needed had been hidden inside your food all along? Most people assume our ancestors found salt rocks, tasted them, and immediately invented seasoning. It sounds neat. It also skips most of human history. For millions of years, humans lived without bags of salt. They hunted, gathered, moved with the seasons, and ate what the land gave them. Their food wasn't sodium-free. It simply carried sodium in smaller, natural amounts. Scientists once treated added salt as a basic part of every human diet. Modern life makes that idea feel obvious. Salt sits in bread, cheese, sauces, snacks, canned food, and meals that don't even taste salty. But the ancient problem was different. Early humans didn't ask how much salt to sprinkle on dinner. Their bodies asked a quieter question. Could ordinary food replace what sweat, blood, and daily life took away? The first answer came from the animals they ate. Meat contains sodium because animal bodies need it for the same reasons human bodies do. Sodium helps nerves send signals. It helps muscles tighten. It also helps the body control water. A hunter who ate fresh meat wasn't eating a salt-free meal. The sodium was already inside the animal's tissues and fluids. Organs carried useful minerals too. Blood also contained salt. That doesn't mean every ancient group drank blood like a prehistoric sports drink. Human diets changed by place, season, and culture. But people often used much more of an animal than modern shoppers do. Imagine a fresh kill after a long hunt. There are no clean plastic cuts. There is warm meat, fat, organs, bone, and blood. Nothing useful gets thrown away because wasting food can become a death sentence. Today, many people eat muscle meat after factories drain, cut, wash, chill, and package it. Then we add salt during cooking. Ancient hunters met the animal much earlier in that chain. For almost all human history, hunting and gathering formed the base of human food. Farming only began around 12,000 years ago. That means our bodies spent an enormous stretch of time living on wild foods. Those foods changed from one region to another. Coastal people ate fish and shellfish. Inland groups ate wild animals, roots, leaves, fruit, seeds, and insects. Each food added small amounts of minerals. Small amounts matter when they arrive every day. Your body doesn't need a mountain of sodium. It needs enough to keep its inner balance working. Ancient kidneys became very good at holding on to sodium when food supplied little. Think of your kidneys as careful guards at the last water bottle. When sodium becomes scarce, they waste less of it. The body also changes hormones that tell the kidneys to save more. That system helped humans live in places where salt crystals weren't easy to find. It didn't make sodium useless. It made the body less careless. And here's the strange part. The body that once fought to save every grain now lives in a world where salt arrives by the truckload. But meat wasn't the whole answer. In 1975, researchers studied the Yanomami people in the Amazon. Their traditional diet included almost no added salt. The researchers found that their bodies adjusted strongly to very low sodium intake. Their kidneys held on to sodium. Their hormone levels reflected a life where the body couldn't afford to throw much away. The researchers suggested that this may have looked more like the normal human condition during much of our evolution. Imagine that difference. You can eat one modern meal and get more sodium than an ancient person may have eaten across a long stretch of the day. The ancient body treated sodium like a rare coin. The modern food system sometimes fires it from a cannon. The Yanomami example doesn't prove that every ancient group ate the same way. No living people are frozen copies of the Stone Age. They have their own histories, cultures, and environments. But their low-salt diet shows something important. Humans can live with very little added salt when natural food supplies sodium and the body learns to conserve it. Later research found another striking pattern. Yanomami blood pressure stayed low across much of life and didn't rise with age in the usual modern pattern. That doesn't mean salt explains everything. Their food, movement, body weight, stress, infections, and way of life also matter. Human health never comes from one ingredient. Still, the comparison reveals how unusual modern food has become. Your tongue expects salt because salt matters. Your brain rewards it because finding sodium once helped survival. The problem is that an ancient reward system now walks through supermarket aisles. A craving built for scarcity meets chips designed for abundance. That is an unfair fight. And if our ancestors could get enough sodium from food, why did humans later work so hard to collect pure salt? This is where the story changes. Around 12,000 years ago, some human groups began farming. People grew more grain and depended more on plants. They also settled in larger communities. That change created new problems. Many plant foods contain less sodium than animal foods. Farm animals also needed salt. Bigger settlements needed food that could last beyond one hunt or one harvest. Salt suddenly became more than a nutrient. It became a tool. People could use it to slow food spoilage. Salt pulls water away from many tiny life forms that rot food. That made meat, fish, and other foods easier to store and carry. Now, imagine winter approaching. A hunter can eat fresh meat today. A village must think about next month. A town must feed people who aren't hunting at all. Stored food becomes power because hunger doesn't care how impressive your walls look. Archaeologists found very early salt working at Poiana Slatinei in what is now Romania. People used salty spring water there thousands of years ago. They heated the salty water and drove away the water. The salt stayed behind. This wasn't someone shaking a little seasoning over dinner. It took fuel, containers, labor, time, and planning. People worked for salt because salt could protect food and support settled life. By the 5th millennium before the Common Era, salt production grew across parts of Europe. People used clay vessels to heat brine, which is water filled with salt. The broken clay pieces left a trail in the ground. Archaeologists call some of this material briquettage. That's simply the remains of clay tools used in making and shaping salt. One white crystal now connected forests, farms, animals, villages, and trade. Salt could travel. Salt could be exchanged. Salt could make certain places rich. A spring that once attracted thirsty animals could become the center of human work. And yes, humanity managed to turn a basic body need into business. We have been extremely consistent. But that's not even the strange part. Before people built salt works, animals may have helped humans find natural salt. Many animals seek mineral licks, salty soil, springs, caves, and exposed rock. A hunter watching animal movement wasn't only following meat. Animal paths could reveal water, safe routes, plants, and minerals hidden in the land. Humans also lived near seas, salty lakes, and mineral springs. They could taste salt in water. They could find crystals after water dried. They could notice which places attracted animals again and again. Nobody needed a chemistry lesson. The tongue gave instant feedback. The body carried a craving. The landscape supplied clues. But access wasn't equal. A coastal group could get sodium from seafood and seawater. A group near a salt spring had another direct source. An inland group might depend more on animal food, plants, trade, or rare mineral places. This meant salt could shape movement. People followed rivers, crossed difficult land, and built exchange routes around useful resources. Salt wasn't always the only reason. But once farming and food storage grew, reliable salt became far more valuable. In ancient China, researchers found evidence that people produced salt long before large empires controlled the region. At Zhangba and Sichuan, chemical traces in ancient remains show long-term salt production. The work changed over time. People improved containers and methods. What began as a local resource became part of a larger system. That pattern appeared in many places. Humans didn't discover salt once. Different groups learned to gather it in different ways. Some mined rock. Some boiled brine. Some dried seawater. Some traded for it. The methods changed because the land changed. So the question becomes bigger. If humans already survived on natural sodium, did civilization create our need for salt? Not exactly. But here's what changes everything. Ancient humans never survived without salt. They survived without added salt. That single word changes the whole story. Sodium was always present. It moved through soil, plants, animals, blood, rivers, seas, and human bodies. Our ancestors didn't escape the need. They met it through food and careful body systems. Then farming changed the balance. People ate more plant-based staples. They kept animals. They stored food. They lived farther from fresh sources. Salt became useful in ways that went far beyond basic survival. The same mineral that helped a nerve fire could now preserve a fish. It could feed livestock. It could support trade. It could help a village survive a bad season. Salt didn't rescue a broken human body. It helped build a new human world. And once people learned to make, move, and store it, the rare mineral became easier to find. Over thousands of years, scarcity slowly turned into plenty. Then, plenty became excess. The ancient body never got the update. You still carry the same basic machinery. Your nerves use sodium. Your muscles depend on it. Your brain still treats salty taste as valuable. Deep inside, your body doesn't know that a shop can hold more salt than an ancient village might ever see. It only knows an old rule. When something rare keeps you alive, don't ignore it. That rule made sense beside a wild river. It made sense after a long hunt. It made sense when every lost mineral had to come back through food. Today, the rule follows you into a kitchen. You reach for salt before tasting the meal. You crave crunchy snacks after a hard day. You call food boring when it doesn't press the same ancient reward button. That doesn't make salt evil. Without sodium, your body can't work. Too little can become dangerous. Too much can also cause problems for many people, especially in a world filled with processed food. The deeper lesson isn't that ancient people were perfect eaters. They faced hunger, injury, infection, and brutal uncertainty. Their lives weren't a wellness plan. They simply lived in a world where valuable things were hard to overuse. Movement took effort. Sweet food came with seasons. Meat required risk. Salt arrived inside food or through work, knowledge, travel, and trade. Modern life removed much of that effort. That trade gave us safer food, longer lives, full shelves, and meals from places our ancestors never knew existed. It also placed ancient cravings inside a world of endless supply. So the next time salt hits your tongue, remember what you're tasting. You're tasting a mineral that once moved through prey, plants, springs, and human blood. You're tasting a need older than farming and a tool that helped villages become civilizations. But you're also feeling an old message. Some part of you still expects the land to be uncertain. It still treats salt as a prize worth noticing. It still whispers that tomorrow may not provide what today has offered. The world changed faster than that whisper could fade. Ancient humans didn't survive by defeating nature. They survived by reading it. They found what their bodies needed inside animals, water, plants, stone, and the paths of other living things. And when their way of life changed, they changed the landscape too. They boiled springs. They shaped clay. They carried salt across long roads. They turned a hidden mineral into stored food, trade, wealth, and power. Yet beneath all of that history sits one small truth. The salt on your table isn't separate from the ancient world. It's a bright white reminder that your body remembers places your mind has never seen. And what about you? If you had to live for 1 year without added salt, which food would you miss most? Would it be fries, bread, meat, or something else? Tell me in the comments.